What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. As always, I'm joined by my guy, Kev. Kev, what's going on, brother?
I'm great, man. Sadly, it's the last weekend of college basketball. We got to enjoy it for what it is, though. But, of course, y'all know, as we're going to talk about, college basketball never sleeps. It's always, especially with the portal, it's 24/7 nonstop. So I'm looking forward to keeping up with that. But I'm good. It's been a great week. The weather been kind of chilly out here, but, you know, we still keep it pushing, though. But I can't complain, man. How you been?
Could be better, bro. Our team should be in the Final Four, but we're not. I'm sick. I usually don't get upset, but I remember watching the game halftime feeling good, like feeling real good. And then the game, second half happens, and this, you know how basketball is. You could have, but it doesn't matter how you play in the first half, so you play in the second half. Second half was like, yo, what was this? We're trying to get to the Final Four here, and that big boy just, and we talked about this before, like it wasn't like it's 2 points, right? 2 points to get about, if you're inside, it's 2 points, but it felt like he was getting 5 points because he was just demoralizing, like, and he just kept hitting shot after shot after shot, and he took over, he dominated. So I'm still feeling that loss sucked and all that, but NC State's in the Final Four. I mean, Kev, before the season, I don't think we were even thinking about NC State doing anything to this, level and all that. So they're in the Final Four. Purdue punches their ticket to the Final Four. Uconn, man, they just
dominant.
It was a game. That's the crazy part. It was a game, and then they went on a 31-0 run, and then they just looked dominant and all that. And then Bama takes care of business, and they're in the Final Four and all that. So we have that set and all that. What do you feel about these matchups and all that? Because obviously, we got some intriguing matchups. Zach going against Spurns and all that. That's going to be interesting. And Bama is probably they got to be a double-digit point underdog against the mighty UConn. UConn's just looking dominant and all that. So how are we feeling about the matchups as we approach the Final Four? Kev, what are we looking forward to? Can NC State can the two underdogs pull off the upset? Do they have a legit chance to beat Purdue and beat UConn? Alabama and NC State, do they have a legit chance to beat them?
I think there's a world where they can. Do I think they will? No, but
what's more likely?
NC State. That one's tough. I've been going back and forth with that one just because for both reasons, right? We can start with Alabama and UConn. Alabama's style of play, which is the reason that they're here, obviously, it keeps them in every single game that they play for the most part. They've been blown out a couple of times. They got blown out at Kentucky, right? They've been blown out a few times, but because they play so fast, it's like it's the best way to if you're trailing, it's like they're down 4, right? They can get right back into it. They shoot so many threes at a high volume that they're never truly out of it unless they just have one of those bad shooting nights. And in this tournament so far, they haven't run into that. And so UConn can slow them down. I think UConn will slow them down. In this game, it's going to require more than just a Mark Sears game because every single game for the most part has been Mark Sears and then somebody else stepped up, right? Versus Carolina, you had the Grant Nelson game. Versus Clemson, you had the Jaren Stevenson game, right? This game, you're probably going to need Rylan Griffin. You're probably going to need a couple other guys to step up to the, plate. But people got to they just got to rise to the case. You're in the Final Four, right? So to me, for UConn, we already know what they are. They're a juggernaut, right? If you're playing against UConn, I don't even know where I start. Like, I think you have to – I think we've seen teams sag off Stephon Castle, right, and just play off him and help on, Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer. So I think that's a big-time thing. And you got to force Tristan Newton to be one-dimensional because when he's scoring and playmaking, you have no chance. You just have no chance. And there's even been games where he's literally just been out there facilitating, and they still are just as dominant, right? So to me, it's one of those guards you have to try and just lock up. And obviously, it's way easier said than done. But between Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer, you have to slow one of those dudes down, right? That's going to be the main thing. And then I wouldn't take the Brad Underwood approach about how Illinois tried to attack Donovan Clingan because that's just not wise whatsoever, right? I'd like to see him put in actions more, like trying to pull him away from the rim, but I'm not just going to directly attack a 7'2" dude at the rim consistently. Like that's not the way.
You know what's crazy? Illinois tried to do that, but they did it. It was too late. It was in the middle of that run, and they started to with Coleman Hawkins started pulling, but it was too late. Like you have
it worked. It worked in that first half.
Yeah, a little bit.
But once you
didn't do it consistently enough.
Yeah, but once UConn seen what it was, they were like, okay, we're just gonna stop this. And if anybody had the personnel to do that, it was Illinois, because we all know Terrence Shannon in transition is a nightmare, right? He's a full head of steam that nobody can slow down this year. But I don't know. I think for Bama, again, just as fast as they get up and down the floor, they're gonna have a chance. Even when they're down 14, 15, because they shoot the way that they do and they play the way that they do, they're gonna be a chance. They're gonna have a chance to win this game. Do I think they will again? No. For NC State, though, I think NC State has a better chance just because they match up guard play-wise, right, with Casey Morsell, DJ Horn, and the rest of those guys. They match up pretty well against Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and Lance Jones, right, especially defensively. That's been the thing about NC State. Their defense has been crazy. Ever since the ACC tournament, it just like their defense went to a completely different level. And teams have had, like, they punch Marquette in the face. They, like, every team they play, like, they just know what they're doing. Even versus y'all in that second half, they just clamped down, right? They made some key buckets too, but to me, I think their guard play matches up much, much better versus this Purdue team, if I'm just being honest. And then, obviously, we already know the DJ Burns-Zach Edey matchup is going to be key too. How can DJ Burns get Zach Edey to get out the paint, right? And I think he can, because he's pretty good at that mid-range jumper. Right, so Edey is going to have to play him honestly. He's probably not going to have to work that hard on that end, just because, again, I mean, Burns can space you out. He will space him out a little bit, but it's not going to be drastically enough. So to me, it's going to be about that guard play. The guard play has to continuously hit those big shots. And DJ Horn has been hitting tough shots for the last month and a half, right? Yeah. Every single time it feels like NC State season is on the line, DJ Horn puts up a bucket that just like a savior, a prayer, and it goes in every single time. So I think NC State has a better chance of doing it. Alabama, again, their style of play benefits them a lot, so I can see them doing it. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'd definitely go NC State.
Their run has been impressive, man. It's just like, to have that, to be playing essentially elimination basketball from the ACC tournament on is just. It's just been really impressive. I don't remember seeing a run like this from a team that was essentially like, hey, coach could be out, all this, all that. We've talked about that, but they've done, and it's the guard play that's going to be essential. Burns, that matchup's going to be crucial. But like you said, the guard play against Purdue, but the Purdue's guards have been, I mean, if it wasn't for UConn's dominance, we'd be talking about Purdue just dominating and all that. And we talked about it. Again, this Purdue team is different. It's not last year's Purdue team. The guards, Fletcher, they're all a year older. They're all, more mature and all that. They took whatever that happened last year to Fairleigh Dickinson, and they've been playing just absolutely, dominant basketball too with Zach Edey. But let's talk about Zach and all that. Obviously, he just won his second straight, National Player of the Year award, which is most deservedly. He has just been, so dominant and all that. Does he have a chance to be the greatest big in college basketball history if they win the national championship? I mean, and listen, there's so many great college basketball bigs, especially like back in the day and all that. You talk about Kareem, what he did at UCLA and all that. Dave Robinson, what he did at Army. Tim Duncan at Wake and all that. But what Zach Edey's been doing has been really special. And obviously, winning national championship put the cherry on top. But can he be considered the greatest big of all time if he cuts down the nets?
Definitely. I mean, what you just said, he's the first back-to-back Wooden Award winner in a long time, right? Since Ralph Sampson at Virginia. And Ralph Sampson was super dominant back in the day at Virginia. We all know what he did in the league too before those injuries started to rack up on him. But I mean, look, I got the Spartans across my chest. He done terrorized us for the past few years, right? And
Yeah.
he's a major presence. I think one thing a lot of people have been talking about way more, and I gotta, restate this too. His conditioning at that size and that height to be able to
Yeah.
play for as long as he does is different, right? Because we've seen other Purdue bigs. I remember Isaac Haas, he was the same height. He might have been taller for all I know, but he did not have the same stamina and endurance that Zach Edey had. And they've had
Mm-mm.
other guys, Matt Harms, amongst others, AJ Hammonds, So I think that's a major thing. And when you look at him, it's like he's gonna get an easy 10 points every game just off dunks alone, right? Like every time he catches the ball, he turns around, he's eye level with the rim, damn near. So to me, yes, you can make a case he's the best big of the 21st century. I think that's a realistic thing, right?
Yeah,
You
right.
have I look at Tyler Hansborough, I look at Jaleel Okafor, I look at Anthony Davis, even though he only played for a year, Jaleel Okafor too. It's been some guys, it's been other guys too, but we're just talking about champions. I mean, you got to start there, right? So if he cuts down the nets, though, it puts him in an entirely different realm and stratosphere. But even so, I think him just getting to a Final Four for Purdue hasn't been to the Final Four, I want to say in 40 something years, right?
Yeah.
So that's a long time, and they've been trying to get to that mountaintop for a long time. Now that they're here, I don't even want to say that they're playing with house money, because I think if you get to the Final Four, that means you've given yourself a chance to win it all. So don't fumble that, right? But Edey, man, he's definitely going to go down as an all-time great. I think now a lot of people are starting to appreciate what Matt Painter has built at Purdue because of this dominant run that they've had going into this year and what they've done in the regular season the past few years now. They've been the cream of the crop in the Big Ten. My Spartans have taken a step back. I think we'll get back, but, that's a different conversation for another day. But right now, I mean, Edey, man, he's put himself in an entirely different category and stratosphere, and I'm very excited to see how this next possible games plays out for him, because he's moving up the ladder for sure.
Yeah, and then obviously the NBA is his next calling card, and that's gonna be interesting to see, how he projects and all that. And then, I mean, if there's a draft where he can go high, it's this draft, because it's definitely a draft where it's kind of all over the place. So there's a chance he could, be a first round, even a lottery pick and all that. But Painter, he got a lot of criticism, especially for the early exits, and then obviously with last year, that was like, oh, like that can't happen and all that. And same thing we talked about with Tony Bennett and UVA when they lost, using that as motivation and all that. Like, if that don't motivate you as a hooper, like, yo, we just lost to some, no offense, you just lost to some random team. And you were the number one overall seed, for UVA and all that. Virginia, I mean, for Purdue, number one seed. And to use that and to be like, all right, that's our battle cry. Hey, Chip, we got to get back. And I knew once they get past that first game in the tourney, they're like, all right, all that ish is off our heads, and now we can just focus. And they have essentially, that they dominated Utah State. They took care of Gonzaga. Tennessee was tough, but they took control all that late and all that, and now they got NC State game, and it's going to be interesting to see. And so who wins? Who's going to play for the national championship?
UConn versus Purdue. I think it's destiny, and I think the beauty about it is most years it doesn't end off with the two best teams playing against each other. It's a rarity because of the way that the tournament is. It rarely happens. So I think with these two matching up, we're really going to identify who the best team in the nation has been all season long, and I'm picking UConn to win it all. So
when was the last time we kind of got
the two best
teams? I gotta think about that one.
I was thinking about this. I was gonna say 21 when Baylor and Houston matched up. Or excuse me, Baylor and Gonzaga matched up, because we all know what Baylor was that year. I can't say 2018 though, because Michigan and Villanova that year were on an entirely different level with Mo Wagner, You had your boy Jalen Brunson on the other side with DiVincenzo, Amari
Brunson,
Spellman. That was to me, I think that was the one. Like I'd like
really
those
Carolina Nova that the
26.
after
That was 17. Yep.
17,
Year
yeah.
before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this one is like the storylines are gonna be crazy.
Crazy.
Because you got the two big men. You have potentially have them clinging and all that. But we're gonna get excited about that, and we're gonna see NC State versus. And it's crazy. It's like NC State could ruin everything. It could ruin everything for a lot of people and all that. But it's gonna be good. UConn, Bama. Does UConn do the same thing they've been doing to everybody with Bama, or does Bama make it close? I mean, I thought Illinois had a shot. And like I said, it looked like it could have been a shot, but that 30-0 run was something we've never. I mean, I don't remember a run like that. That
Never.
was. I remember just being like, "Wait a minute!" The score. I turned my head for a second. It was tied, and then you just look for 1 second, and they're on a 10-0 run. It's like, "Oh, what's going?" And then boom, 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 and all that. So, UConn take care of business. Do they dominate, or is it closer than most of their games? This year.
I honestly think both games are going to be closer than what we're expecting going into them. Like, I truly believe that. Again, just because we already talked about the style of play and how they match up with each other. But again, like, if Bama just continues to play their game, because the thing about Bama, no matter if they're up 14 or if they're down 14, they're still playing at 100 miles per hour. The concern is if the game gets close and it's tight, like how it was in that Carolina game, are they still going to be playing at that same speed? Because you can't play 100 miles per hour 24/7, especially at the end of the game, right? But it worked out in the game against Carolina, because if you go back and watch it, Carolina, what Bama did was they drugged Carolina to the deep end, and they forced Carolina to play like them. If you go back and look at the shot selection that Carolina took within that last 5 minutes, Carolina fans probably wanted to scratch their eyes out because it was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad. It's not just that Jalen Withers shot that I know a lot of people are referring to.
Yeah.
It was more than that. They were taking some terrible contested threes that they had no business taking. And so if Bama, I don't think they will, because we haven't really seen anybody take UConn out of their game. But if anybody can, I think Bama can, just because, again, when you're playing that fast, everybody wants to play that fast because that's the most fun way to play basketball, is just get it up and down and running and not running too many sets. So I think Bama can make it interesting. NC State, the same thing. Again, it's gonna be like a chess match, seeing how DJ Burns is gonna score over, around, or under Zach Edey. But again, I think he can, though. You know what I'm saying? He scored over everybody else. And again, Zach Edey is a matchup that
he's different.
He hasn't really seen. Nobody's seen like that. But I think depending on how long it takes for him to get adjusted to Zach Edey, I think that's going to be a key thing. Like, it could take 5 minutes, it could take 0 minutes, it could take a whole half for him to get adjusted. But I think that's going to be a key thing too. But again, I really like NC State's guards in this matchup too. So they're going to have to hit some shots and make Edey play them, honestly, coming off screens. But we'll see. I think they can both get real interesting, honestly.
Yeah. And like you said with Burns, like, even you saw with Duke, the second half adjustments they made, and they essentially dominated the game in the second half, and it was a 6-point game, I believe, at half with Duke up. So if they're able to figure it out, especially in the second half, and control the game, and him figure out Zach, but this is different. This is not Filipowski and all that. Like, Zach's a different breed, so that's going to be interesting to see and all that. So, but I'm with you. I think the run ends for NC State. I think we get the matchup, the two, like you said, the two best teams in the country going at it for the chip and all that. And, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that Monday. We'll try to do a show Monday and then talk about the national championship and all that. But I want to show the ladies love. Because NC State got both their squads, and right now we got NC State, South Carolina undefeated. They've had a tremendous season and all that. It's just been impressive and all that. But obviously after this we got Caitlin versus Paige and all that, and then obviously we saw the LSU matchup and how that numbers have been going up, and the USC UConn, how those numbers are going up. The game of the women's game has evolved, and it's just been getting more intriguing and all that. How good is this for the game, and how good is this for a potential change for the W, because some of these girls, they're taking pay cuts. They were taking pay cuts to go to the league and all that. So I think eventually the W is going to be like, hey, we gotta up the ante and all that, because these girls are actually, they're losing money. They're gonna stay in college, and we need these girls in and all that. So how do you feel about the evolution of the women's game in college and all that, and how much love they're getting, and the ratings are showing it and all that? They're getting record ratings and all. Now, obviously, we got a part of the country and all that just gonna crap on it no matter what. But how do we feel about the evolution of the women's game, and just how much star power, especially right now? There's a lot of star power in the women's game right now.
I think it's beautiful, bro, because I've been a fan of women's college basketball for a super
Juju,
long
we got
time.
Juju Watkins too. She's a freshman too,
and I can't wait to watch her.
You get to see her out west,
Shout out to Mackenzie Forbes. She had a great year this year for them, alongside some others, Caitlin Davis, Rhea Marshall, amongst others. But SC is going to be good for a long time. Shout out to Coach Gottlieb. I know we're going to talk about the men's side in a minute, but I love it just because growing up, if I'm just being honest, kind of like the men's side too, but especially in the women's side, it was only a few elite programs, right? It was Uconn, it was Tennessee, it was Stanford, it was a couple other schools, right? But now it feels like everybody's good everywhere, right? This year, Iowa State was really good. Texas was really good. Texas, they have a good history, but Texas was really good, right? The entire Pac-12 was really nice. Stanford, UCLA, USC, Colorado, Arizona. Everybody was nice in the Pac-12 for the most part. Every team, Oregon State was really good this year, right? So I think with the NIL and the transfer portal, of course, is leveled the playing field more than ever. Like, let's be honest, Gino's in the Final Four, and Gino has 9 or 11 national championships. He hasn't
won one to 16 though, right? Something like that.
Exactly. He hasn't won in a long time because, again, the playing field is more leveled out than ever. And that's just how it is. And I'm grateful for that. And Gino's going to be fine. Obviously, they're back already. He has Paige Beckers amongst others. But I think having that parity and knowing that the game is growing. You look at Diasia Fair at Syracuse. She ended up being a top 5 scorer all time. Like, I feel like she didn't even get enough coverage, in my opinion. And there's other players out there too. Edey Crooks is a freshman. This entire freshman class is really star-studded. Hannah Hidalgo doing her thing at Notre Dame. She's going to be a problem for the next 3 years, right? It's Madison Booker, problem, right? Again, NC State is really good. Louisville is going to get back to where they were. Kentucky just hired Kenny Brooks from Virginia Tech. He did amazing things at Virginia Tech. They're going to be good. Tennessee just fired Coach Harper because they feel like she fell short, in March Madness a couple of times, but they're going to get a coach. They're going to get back on track. So I think the growth and the evolution of it has been the best part about it to me, because I knew this was going to happen, right? The casual basketball fan will always say, I can't watch it because they're not dunking and things like that. Yeah. But the thing about it is, you're going to see it. Dunking is going to become more common in the women's game. Why? Because of evolution. 2, the second thing is, because all this talent is dispersed, the game is just going to become 10 times as better, right? And you're going to see that correlate to the WNBA, where you're going to have to add more teams. I've already seen they signed off for a team in Toronto, which I think is a great thing. That's a huge market. You have a whole country supporting you, just like the Raptors, right? So I think the growth and evolution of it is beautiful. I think eventually, if I was them, I'd probably take the 4-year requirement down a year, just to 3 years. I think 4 years is a little drastic because, if we're being honest, Juju could play in the W right now. She can play in the W right now.
I forgot who said that. I was listening.
It was Chennai, I think. Chennai and Andrea.
Yeah, they said that, because it's like you said, the W, they need the star power and all that. And it's just like, all right, they don't need to be there 4 years and all that. Like I said, let's lower them and then get them. And then now the W's got to do their part and pay, because, like we mentioned before, like Caitlin Clark is making more money. She's on commercials and all that, and she's gonna go in the W. She's gonna be making the 65. Hey, that's just a regular people's salary and all that. Like she gotta be making more. She's probably making triple amount. Same thing with a lot of these ladies. So like that has to change too. And I think it will. I think it's gonna because the W had their best year profit wise and all that. I think eventually salaries are going to go up, especially with these next, like I said, Juju's in a few years. this next evolution of girls and all that coming in, they're gonna change the game, for the better too. So they're gonna get more people paid and all that, and then we're gonna see them get, they've been fighting, they've been wanting them, bump and pay and all that. I think all that stuff's gonna come into fruition in the next few years.
The game is just like anything. It's just like all sports. It's meant to evolve, right?
Yeah.
The talent level is always going to evolve. And I wanted to say too, because they weren't dunking, they haven't been dunking like that. That means they had to focus more on skill. And that's why I love the women's game too, because the skill is off the charts. You're going to see in these Final Four games, if you've been watching already before, which I hope you have, the skill right now is better than it's ever been. And obviously, we've had greats. I don't want to forget about the greats. Cheryl Swoops, Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper, Lisa Leslie. The list goes on. I can go on all day. Don Staley, of course, right? But it's so much talent, and it's everywhere now.
That's the difference. It's everywhere. Whereas Uconn, Tennessee, maybe Stanford, or Washington. Now it's like, there's multiple, not just 4 teams, 3. For the most part, we just think about Uconn, Tennessee. For the most part, they just back and forth for the last 30 years. It's been back and forth for them. Now it's dispersed. It's all over the place,
And it was only a matter of time. Like it was only you could see it on the way. It was just going to take a little bit of time. But I think you've had players like Asia Wilson, and obviously players before them, but like Asia Wilson and like Stewie, they laid the foundation, right? Asia, especially being at South Carolina, she could have went anywhere. She's from there, and she started off a dynasty essentially, right? That we're going to see continue, for a long time. If Dawn wins one this year, which it's a great possibility that she does, right? And I think it's a beautiful thing, bro. I think it was always meant to happen. This is where the game is going. It's the same thing on the men's side. You're going to start to see more and more talent every single year. Right now, we're already seeing it's damn near 2 stars on every team in the NBA. Early in the 2000s, that wasn't the case. You know what I'm saying? It was one in a few cities. Yeah.
And a bunch of old vets. Like, it was Allen Iverson and Eric Snow, the Kembe Mutombo, Aaron McKee. It was just that. That's how it used to be. And like you said, now it's like, now every team got at least 2 main guys, and then they got a bunch of other skilled guys. Like those guys are good too. So it's like this, like you said, the skill factor in basketball, period, is evolved. Now, some people don't like that. Some people get mad at but I'm like, it's evolution. We are, like we said, in the NBA, we got a 7'4" dude who's doing stuff that we have never seen a guy that big do. So it's like it's evolution and all that, and it's the same thing with the feet. We're gonna be see girls be dunking and all that. There's a girl like Duke who's dunking and all that. Like it's gonna happen if that's what people get excited about. For me, I don't care. Like the whole lowering the hoop, the rim, like the whole thing. I always thought that was goofy and all that. Like no, like just. I know that we tend to compare the men's and the women's game way too much. It's like you got to stop doing that. We just got to watch it for what it is and like just appreciate the skill and the craft that the women do, because it actually is harder because they don't have that. So you should actually appreciate it more because they don't have the level of skill that a guy like LeBron James or Kevin Durant have, where they can do whatever they want. So just appreciate it, man. But we got some good games today, and Uconn, man, what Gino's been able to do over there and all, and then that's gonna be interesting how he fit with Caitlin, and Caitlin she's on the verge of maybe doing something special and having her historic career and all that. What she's doing, I mean, is how important is she the most important female basketball player this century? Because what she can potentially bring for the W going forward, like she can potentially change the game, maybe be this version, it's like Steph Curry version, like
that's
change
exactly
the game.
Where I was gonna go. That's exactly.
I know it's like people said that, but I look at it, I'm like, yeah, she could legit change the women's game for the better going down. Now, some people may not like it and all that, like same way people, Steph ruined the young, but like no, he changed the game. Like he legit. We got rid of the 4 and 5s who were just plotters. Like we got rid of that because they're like, oh no, we need a guy who could run around. We need more guys who could run around, be skilled like Steph. So can she be that version? Is she this version in the 21st century?
I think she is, and I think the reason you can make a case she's the most impactful of this century is because of that Steph Curry effect, right? If we're just being honest, most of the people watching this aren't a casual basketball fan, right?
Mhm.
But for the casual basketball fan, if we're just thinking from the NBA or WNBA's perspective, the fans that they have to cater to more than anybody because a large part of the fans are casuals, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to make people feel like they're less than because they don't know less basketball, whatever.
Yeah.
But people love the Steph Curry aesthetic, right? The shooting
Yes.
deep threes, the crossovers, the running everywhere, right? The shooting it and turn around before it even goes in, swish, right? Things like that. And Caitlin Clark is like that. You have to pick her up the moment she passes half court. You have
Mhm.
to guard her damn near 94 feet. You have to make her feel as uncomfortable as possible. Not only that, she can pull from damn near half court, but she also drops dimes from damn near half court, right? And she's going at you consistently. And so I think to the casual fan again, that aesthetic of the way that she plays is appealing. And I think, honestly, I hate to compare her, but I'm going to just be honest with y'all because that's what we're here for. She's going to be what the W wants Sabrina Ionescu to be, if I'm just being honest. Like, and I love Sabrina. She was
Mhm.
amazing at Oregon, right? She set the college women's hoop scene on fire. But we're talking about how they're going to project to the W. I think, Sabrina's in a great situation with your Liberty. Of course, they got a squad up there.
Mhm.
But when you look at Caitlin, she's going to walk into a situation with, yes, the Indiana Fever are struggling, but she's going to have another damn near all-star with her in Aaliyah Boston. And I think having that freedom is going to help her. It's only going to make her better. She might struggle for a year or two, but she's going to put it together and she's going to be a formidable threat in the W for a long time. So I think Caitlin is going to bring a lot of fans with her. And I think Juju, she's paving the way for Juju because when Juju gets there, it's going to go crazy.
The
Like,
Juju hype's gonna be great. Like we think Caitlin has obviously a lot of hype the last 2 years, but Juju because we've seen her as a freshman. Like I felt like the Caitlin Clark thing started last year, but like Juju as a freshman, we're gonna see her for 3-4 years, and hopefully they change the thing, and maybe it's just 3 years, but we're gonna see her 4 years, and she's gonna have a lot of hype because she's different. She's
and I
different.
want to say this real quick too. God rest her soul, but Gigi Bryant would have made an impact too, man. Like that
100%.
was one that,
That was the one.
yeah, tragic as it is still to this day. And of course, we still got Juju amongst others, but Gigi Bryant was gonna make a huge wave too. But her
Yeah.
legacy gonna live on too. Of course, rest in peace to everybody in that incident. I didn't
No,
mean it. I didn't want to take it to that dark left turn, but I just had to
no,
say
no,
that
no.
because,
But you're
yeah.
100%, and this is why what's happening now is great because when that unfortunate incident happened, we all knew like Gigi, like she could be the one that can save the women's game because it's Kobe Bryant's daughter, and people, the person who may not care about the women's game might care because they're a Kobe Bryant fan, they're a Lakers fan, and they care about Kobe. So if you care about Kobe, you're going to care about his daughter. So I mean, I'm sure you did. I was like, wow, this is the best thing that could happen. Like she could hoop too. Like she's legit. She's not just that's Kobe's daughter and just she all right. No, she was legit. So when that happened, I was afraid that man, this could affect the women's game now, and they have figured it out. But Gigi, she would have been the one because you know how much Kobe, like we just meant, Kobe was behind the women's game without, and Sabrina, that he was with Sabrina all the time and all that. So like, I thought the women's game was gonna take it, and if that obviously if that doesn't happen, the women's game probably it exploded already. But yeah, she would have been the one. She would have been the one. She would to elevate the game even quicker. But they've bounced back from that. They've been able to create some stars in college, and hopefully that translates to the W, and the W gets more exposure, get more teams, like I said, get more international and all that. It helps that you got major markets with some good teams like New York. You need the New York team to be good, man. Liberty being good, the Aces doing what they're doing. So now you have some, now you got Indiana could possibly say Leah Boston last year. She was a rookie, all that. You team her up with Caitlin and all that. And we got some good things going. But, do you think South Carolina, right now they're in a tight one and all that? Can they get to the national championship and can they run the table?
I think they can. And I will say I'm concerned for them just because I think that added pressure of having to finish your season off undefeated is real.
Mhm.
And I feel like it hasn't been done in a few years. I want to say the last time Don, I think they had a loss. It might have been one of Gino's Uconn teams.
I think
But
Gino, yeah. It feels like
tough.
Gino had an undefeated year
Yeah,
for sure.
it's tough. And again, with this ever-changing landscape, it's even tougher. And so to me, I think that pressure weighs. And honestly, we're seeing it right now. NC State has the guard play to go neck and neck with them. Like NC State has really good guards. Sanaya Rivers was at South Carolina for her freshman year before she transferred over there. Right? You got Miss James. She's a bucket. My girl Mimi Collins, she started her career off at Maryland. She's tough, right? So you got guards that can go at them, and I'm excited to see how this game plays out. But I do think ultimately South Carolina is going to get the job done and cut down the nets out there in Cleveland.
Is there a matchup that you think they could struggle with if they take care of business versus NC State, whether if it's UConn or it's Iowa?
I think both of them. I'd lean Iowa just because Iowa. One thing about them is they get quality shots. They play as a team because they played so many games together. Like they understand where everybody's going to be at all times between Gabby Marshall, between Kate Martin, between a few others, and they space the floor out a lot. So South Carolina's bigs, Camila Cardoso, Ashton Watkins, they're going to have to guard the perimeter, and they can guard the perimeter. But in a matchup like that, they would have to guard the perimeter more than they've done this entire season, in my opinion. So to me, I think Iowa would be a tough matchup, but I still like them in that game though, regardless. I like South Carolina to get the job done.
That'll be, I mean, ratings wise, you get that one, that'll be a movie. I mean, I'm sure that would break whatever records from last year and all that. But both Final Fours are intriguing and all that, and we'll talk about the Ben, Monday and all that. But so in some other news in the world of college basketball, some pretty big news. We'll talk about the coaching move first. Eric Musselman. We've heard some rumblings that he was out west checking out USC. We know what that meant, and we've heard that it wasn't happy, in Fayetteville. So, well, how do you feel about the move going to USC? It's a big move and all that. I know he feels like he's Hollywood too, man. He's been there, not that close, but he was in Golden State and all that. When he was coaching the Warriors in the 2000s and all that, so he knows a little bit about California and all that. And so I can't blame him. And from what I've heard, it was the living situation and all that. Like, I mean, obviously Arkansas, California, I can't blame him. But obviously USC had a struggle this season and all that. And Bronny's in the kind of goes hand in hand a little bit. Bronny is in the transfer portal. He's also entering the draft, but there's rumors that he's just dabbling, just put his feet in and see it. But most likely he'll be transferring, going to maybe Duquesne, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But Musselman to USC, what does this mean? And then kind of what does this mean for Arkansas? What direction do they go in? There's a few names that I'm sure we'll talk about that they can possibly look into and all that. But what does this mean for Musselman going to USC, and now obviously USC going to the Big Ten and all that? How does this affect USC going forward? And do you like the move?
I love the move. I want to start off with Muss leaving Arkansas though, just because it's strange to me. Like, y'all know me, I'm a big Muss fan, right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, I don't understand continuously job hopping, because I think once one of these major jobs opens up, like say Bill Self leaves Kansas, or Izzo when he leaves Michigan State in a few years, whatever the case may be, I think Muss is going to be in the conversation as a candidate. Do I think he's going to be first? Maybe not, but I think he'll be one of those guys like TJ Otzelberger, like Scott Drew, like in that realm, right? I think he's starting to work his way up. Nate Oates eventually, right? But so I don't really get it, right? Obviously, he was at Nevada. He left there, goes to Arkansas, left there now, and now he's at SC. And I'll say for SC, this is a home run hire. Shout out to Jennifer Cohen, the AD, who was at Washington that's now at SC. This is like best case scenario, because for Andy Enfield, y'all know me, I have not been a big fan of Andy Enfield. I was waiting for him to go. Like, he did some good things. I don't want to make it seem like he was just trash. He did some good things. He made USC basketball relevant for the first time in a long time.
They were ass.
They were terrible. They were cheeks. And so he left to SMU, which I think is a good job. They're going to go from the American to the ACC, so you'll be seeing them potentially 2 times a year, more than likely just once. But I think SMU is a hell of a job too. But he knew that his time was coming to an end at SC, whether he was going to get fired or take for another job, which he did. He took another job. And so for SC, getting a dude like Muss in the city who's been in LA, he's lived in San Diego, he understands Southern California, this is major. And especially too, because this was my biggest concern with Enfield going into next year. You had a horrendous year this past year, right? With Collier, with Boogie Ellis coming back, with Bronny having his heart stuff. You're going into the Big Ten now, so it only gets 10 times tougher, right? But for a guy like Muss, he embraces that. He already said, I seen his press conference this morning. He said, I'm not really going to be worried about looking down the floor and seeing Tom Izzo, because I used to look down the floor and see Phil Jackson and Pat Riley. And I said, that's a bar.
That really is a bar.
That's a bar. So I'm like, yeah, Muss is war. That's the thing about Muss that I respect. He's been everywhere. He's been in the G League. He's been in the NBA. He's been overseas. He's been in college. He's been everywhere.
He's war ready. He's war ready.
So I'm like, this is what SC needs. And we already know he's going to recruit. I think he's going to get Isaiah Elohim, who's from New York, but he's played at Sierra Canyon the past few years. He's a big-time player. He's committed to Arkansas. He's going to decommit. I think he's going to end up at SC. So you're going to start to get your homegrown kids back to SC. On top of, we know Muss, even though this past year Arkansas was disastrous, we know Muss knows how to capitalize and utilize the transfer portal more than anybody. Tremont Mark was amazing this year. Again, Arkansas was terrible, but Tremont Mark is one of the best players in the country. He just happened to be on a terrible team, right? And so to me, Muss is going to get talent. He's going to start to get people to root for USC basketball again, because we already know you got the Dodgers, you got the Lakers, you got Oceans, you got Hikings, you can whatever you want to do out here. But
I got a lot of stuff out there. I got a lot of stuff.
But Muss is going to get people to go to the Galen Center and support that program alongside, of course, Juju Watkins, Lindsey Gottlieb on the women's side. So USC, on top of Lincoln Riley being there, coaching SC at football, I mean, it might be a place to be right now, especially going into the Big Ten. But as for the Arkansas job, news came out this morning that Chris Beard, who seemed to be the favorite because he coached at Arkansas Little Rock back in the day, it seemed like he was the presumed favorite. Came out he wasn't. He turned it down. He signed an extension with Ole Miss. Shout out to Walker. That's big for them. But now the favorite seems to be Jerome Tang, and I love that. I honestly do. Like, I think Tang is like Muss in the sense that he got that energy that's just contagious. If you can bring Kansas State alive, imagine what you can do at Arkansas in the SEC. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing too. Going from the Big 12 to the SEC, yeah, you can make a case the Big 12 is a better basketball conference, but when we're talking about this economy and financial-wise, Arkansas is one of the best jobs in the SEC. And especially, again, you're in the SEC. All the revenue in college is between the SEC and the Big 10 right now. So that's where you want to be if you're a coach. And I think for Tang, that would be monstrous. And I just seen John Rothstein tweeted that Kansas State made an offer to bump his pay rate, which I think is smart. But I don't know if it's going to be enough because, again, Arkansas is just appealing. So, to me, I think Tang is the way to go.
Arkansas did a really good job, man. And Kansas State, as we've seen, like Frank Martin, he had a little run with them, but it was a little run. There was like a cap. Like, you could have a little run, but it seems like with the Kansas State job, it's like you have a few years and then, for whatever reason, it thinks this go. With Arkansas, you got a great fan base. They love basketball down there, and you can recruit there. So, that to me, I think Jerome Tang is the guy. I think he'll take the job. The Beard thing, maybe that was their first out, but Beard, he just took the job at Ole Miss. The thing happened at Texas, and he just got to Texas too. So he's going to take another job. Listen, I'm all for guys go into better situations and all that, but for him, it's like, all right, bro, you need to lay low, maybe another year at Ole Miss and all that, and then but to take another, that'd be like 4 straight. You do a 4 straight.
That's the thing.
A
lot of people didn't even think he was gonna get not even the Ole Miss job. A lot of people didn't even think after what happened to domestic violence at Texas, they didn't even think he was gonna get a high major job as fast as he did. And I'm like, I agree. I don't like. He shouldn't have got that job, if we're being honest, but he's there, so he should be grateful that he has it, and he should just try and maximize that because Ole Miss isn't a terrible job. Like, it's a quality job. You can get talent there. We've seen they had a lot of talent this year. Obviously, it was his first year. So I'm not going to kill him for his first season, but you can get talent out there. And so I think he'll be fine there. But in all reality, he really shouldn't even be there. So he should just be lucky he got that. Because for him to, especially based off that situation, for him to go from 1 year Texas to Ole Miss to Arkansas, that's just not how it goes, bro. So I think he made the right move.
Texas to Ole Miss, then you're gonna leave to, and then if I'm a recruit, I'm gonna be like, hey, bro. So what if Kentucky opens up? You gonna dip? Because he gonna be the new. He gonna be like his buddy and what's his face at the head coach of the football team. What's his name? I'm forgetting his name.
Lane Kiffin.
And Kiffin dips every time every time there's a job available. Lane Kiffin's interested. He was interested in the Miami job last year. Like he's always interest. It's like, and that's the thing is like, all right, just do another Ole Miss, and then if you want to take, if there's a job better, all that, and you do it. But it's like, this is a bad look. 4 straight years you're gonna be coaching a new team. I know circumstances, whatever, but that was on you though. You messed that up. At Texas, can't do that. You got to show some type of loyalty. That, like we said, we thought he was gonna get a mid-major job at best, and they gave you a shot. You got to show. And listen, like I said, I'm all for getting it, but sometimes you got to show that loyalty for people who show you loyalty. Like they gave you a shot. They could have just been like, nah, we don't want this. They said, hey, man, we're gonna give you a shot, and you're gonna dip a year after 1 year. That's why I was like, I don't think he's gonna get it, and I think he realized. I think he realizes that like I can't. It may be a better gig, and it probably is. Arkansas is definitely a better gig than Ole Miss. I just think it was a bad look. The aesthetics don't look good, and I think he already has a black hole around him. Do you need more of that? Then you left. So I think that was the right. But I think Jerome Tang is the guy. He fits it. He fits the energy. I think he embraced the area and all that. I think he's the guy and all that, but we'll see what happens. But I think that's a job that they'll find someone for Will Wade. That's another guy and all that. They'll find someone and all that. But yeah, muscle into USC. And as we're talking about USC, Bronny's in the transfer portal, and he is going to put his name in the draft. Most likely, he probably, from what I heard, do you think people? They say he's just putting. A lot of guys do this all the time. They'll put the transfer portal, but they'll put the name in the draft just to test the waters and all that. But Bronny, obviously we know what happened. He had the heart issue and all that. People don't care because they just hate his dad, and they're just people are nasty and all that. But he didn't up and down. So he showed some flashes. I know people look at the points per game and go, 5 points per game. They laugh and all that. But he had some moments and all that. But it was a tough situation and all that. He was behind a lot of good guards too, that they had to, so you have to put that in perspective too. But Bronny in the transfer portal, obviously Duquesne is a team that's the first team that a lot of people talk about. But what other potential schools do you think could be good fits for him that are realistic?
Yeah, as we know, even when we talked about it last year when he was in the thick of his recruiting process, I was saying just go to Oregon. Right? Oregon. Because you had some freshmen. Obviously, we've seen the year that they had a up and down, but they got into the tournament and made a little bit of noise. Right. Mm-hmm. I thought him playing there, the thing about him is that his biggest skill set to me is kind of like his pops, is that he just contributes to winning basketball. Right. And I think if you just go to a winning situation, you would boost your draft stock tremendously. So I think Oregon, I look at potentially Houston for a year, maybe. I don't know if Samson's trying to deal with all LeBron stuff, but maybe if we're just taking all that out of consideration. But I look at them. I look at if Tang stays at K-State, right? I would say maybe look at them. And then it's a few other places, right? He can go ACC. He can go Big Ten. He can go mid-major and be straight somewhere, right? So to me, the biggest thing is just go back to school. One, obviously, your father's LeBron, so you're going to get all the feedback that you need from the NBA. He knows damn near everybody, right? You don't need that much feedback. But go to a winning situation. I think Bronny this time next year could be on a random Final Four team and be an X factor. I truly believe that in my heart. Now, I'm not saying he has to be the number 1 or 2 scoring option, but I think as an X factor guy, like when you need some production out of a random player, Bronny can give you that. And so again, I look at schools like that, like even like a Creighton, right? I know he's probably not going to go there. Obviously, that's a long stretch. I'm just throwing out names right now, but I'm saying like realistically, I'm saying Houston, I'm saying Oregon, even maybe UCLA. I don't think Brown will want him to play for Mick Cronin, but I think even like that helps out a little bit, right? So I'm just saying, go somewhere that they're going to win, right? That is the main thing. I don't care where it's at. I don't care what conference. It could be the SEC, it could be the ACC, it could be the Big Ten, whatever. If you put Bronny somewhere where dudes care about winning, that was the thing about this SC team. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't like to talk about guys' intentions, but Isaiah Collier clearly looked like he was playing for his draft spot. Boogie Ellis looked like he was just playing because it's his last year. And then everybody else was just there. And then Bronny's coming out.
Crazy to think that you say that, and like you said, that's the way it looked. And he actually hurt his stock because he was some people say, yo, he's gonna be the number 1 pick. And now he still could be like a lottery, but now we're talking about like 10 to 14, maybe even outside the lottery. So it's like you kind of hurt. It's something if you play winning basketball, man,
helps everything.
I remember what Anthony Davis when Kentucky. His stats, you look at his stats, and it's not like eye popping and all that, but he played winning basketball and helped them win a national championship. And people were like, yeah, the stats don't show it, but he's him. And obviously, we've seen he's had a Hall of Fame career, won a championship, and is one of the he might win Defensive Player of the Year and all that. So like sometimes we fall in love with stats and all that. And some kids, a lot of especially these new era kids, think, oh, that's what I got to do, stats. No, because now you're forcing it, and now you just won 10 games, whatever they won, and that hurts. Now your stock is down. It's just in college, you got to play winning basketball. That's how you know.
The best case scenario, Prezi, of recent times is none other than Demetrius Morant, Ja Morant. Went to Murray State his sophomore season. His freshman year, they were okay. Sophomore year, he took a major jump, and he had games at Auburn and at Alabama that kind of put him on the map. And I think they lost both those, but the flashes were there. On top of he won his conference, which I believe is the Ohio Valley. He got them into the tournament. And that game versus Marquette put him from a first-round pick to the lottery. And he got drafted, second, if I'm not mistaken? So he took a major jump, just like I think he might have went third. I think he went after RJ, right?
So it was because it was supposed to be Zion and RJ with like 1-2, and then he changed everything, and then he wound up being the number 2 pick.
Exactly. So that's my point right there. It's not like you have to go on a deep run, but again, it's how do you impact winning? And if in Ja's case, if you could have a run like that, where even if it's just one game, if you go out swinging, scouts take note of that. Your boy on your team right now, we just talked about the 2018 national championship game. That Dante DiVincenzo game versus Michigan put him on an entirely different stratosphere, ladies and gentlemen. If y'all don't remember that game, he was cooking. I still got the Sports Illustrated cover, rest in peace, right now, where he was cooking Michigan. I don't remember how much he had, but he was frying, and that changed his entire life. I don't know people asking about that like that we've seen on like a podcast or anything like that, but I'm sure somebody has, and he'll tell you like that game changed everything. I know it did because he went from, I think he was probably projected like second round to first round. And now look at him. He's doing his thing in the league, cooking on a nightly basis. So, those little runs, people take it for granted, but they could change your life for the better. And that's what I'm saying. Bronny, if you hear this, just go somewhere where you can win, bro. That's the main thing. Don't worry about nothing else. Everything will fall where it needs to fall.
Yep. That's it. Just go to a winning environment because it'll change the whole narrative and all that. And it'll make your life make life easier for you. And yeah, it's just trying to find the right spot. And I'm sure, listen, his dad's LeBron James. So like we said, he has whatever NBA info he needs, he got it, man. I mean, Uncle Rich Paul, they gonna figure that out, so I think he's coming back for sure. Duquesne is a school that's been talked about a lot, so that's an option. But just go somewhere where you're gonna, play good basketball, play winning basketball, because that's the type of player he is. Everybody wants him to be like Pops. It's like, bro, that's just not. His dad's the ultimate, winning type of player. Like, yeah, he has the most points. He has all the flashiness, but we know LeBron for being a team player and all that. So, for Bronny, hopefully he makes makes a good decision because, rooting for him. He went through a lot. I know people don't care and all that, but he went through a lot this year, physically and all that. And we don't know what, how long it take him if he's still not there. So we don't know, how much that affected him and all that, but he gets the opportunity to go somewhere and hopefully he'll get to play and be in a winning environment because that'll solve a lot of things. But yeah, the USC thing, it sounded good. Obviously, staying in the left coast is good because that's where Pops plays and he can kind of help you out of being in the area. But now I feel like it's all right. If you're Braun, if you're Pops, you gotta let him do his thing because you're too close to. And it's crazy to say you're too close with the kids, but it's like this is a different situation. This is different from any other father-son relationship. This is especially when you have a situation where you could be his peer very soon. Like we've never had this, and that's another thing too. We've never had to deal with this. This is unprecedented territory that we're dealing with. We've never had a father-son play together. I think we had it in baseball. The Griffeys played together and all that. Football never happened. I don't think it's ever happened, but this is unprecedented. So people criticize LeBron for all that. Remember, that's his kid. Yeah, he's an NBA. That's his kid. That's how I do with my kids. How most people do. So people need to understand that too. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Hopefully he makes the right move and all that. But he's in the portal and all that. And but man, college basketball is coming to an end, unfortunately, Kev. It's coming to an end. Final Four, and we'll talk about more of our. And we don't need to talk about our teams and all that. We usually do that, but I'm sick of my team. I shut down, man. I shut my phone off. I went to sleep. I was sick. Obviously Michigan State and all that. So we'll get more into how they attack how the off season looks for them and how they prepare. I know. We'll talk more about the All-American game happened and all that. Got some guy. We got some Duke's got some hoopers. They have, and then obviously, Cooper is, he's special and all that. So, we'll talk more about, the incoming class for next year and all that. But we'll try to get one in before the national championship game and all that. Okay, to get a bucket in the books, bro.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate y'all as always. Y'all know we're going to keep rocking the portal, like we said earlier. It's never going to stop. It's never going to sleep. It's already a whole bunch of names entering every single day.
Yes.
I assume it's going to be
more in depth about the portal, all the portal additions and all that. We'll dive into, what spots we'd like them to go to and all that stuff.
Yeah, man. So as always, appreciate y'all. Enjoy y'all weekend. Enjoy the games. And as always, appreciate it, Prezi. Appreciate Off the Ball Network. We're going to keep rocking. Same thing as always.
That's for sure. Enjoy the basketball games. Don't compare. Don't pick sides. Oh, I'm gonna. I've seen a lot of that back and forth. Oh, the men's is better. The women's is better. Who cares? Honestly, watch the women's game. Watch it. Enjoy it. Today, you got two great games going on. We got a great one right now going on with NC State, South Carolina. Enjoy the upcoming game with Iowa and Uconn, and enjoy the men's. And just enjoy it. That's it. You don't got to pick. Just enjoy it. That's it. Enjoy the basketball. We have great basketball. NBA season is coming to an end too. So just enjoy the basketball, good basketball we got going on and all that. But especially in the college game, enjoy it and all that. National championship games coming up. But get a bucket in the books. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in to this episode. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in all season to us. So we'll talk more about, like I said, the transfer portal, the national championship, and get into more all that stuff. But on that note, be well, be safe, take care.
Peace
out.